Review. It's called The Outrage and it was released in 1964. It's directed by Martin Ritt, produced by Ronald Lubin, and the screenplay is by Michael Kanin, but it's based on a Japanese book in a groove and Rashomon. And that Rashomon also was the subject of a film directed by the iconic Japanese director Akira Kurosawa, and that was from a Japanese play by Faye Kanin and Michael Kanin. The music's by Alex North, and it was edited by Frank Santillo. Now to the cast. In the lead role is Paul Newman. He plays Juan Carrasco. Lawrence Harvey is the Colonel Wakefield, the husband. Claire Bloom plays his wife, Nina. Edward G. Robinson plays the conman. William Shatner is the preacher. Howard Da Silva plays the prospector. And then we have a few other supporting casts. The Indian is played by Paul Fix. Okay, so that's the details. Now let's get on with the review. Your attention from the first frames is, or should be, a director's major consideration when he embarks on a movie shoot. And those early scenes should start to hook you to keep watching. Be alert and wanting to hear all the detail of the script as the story unravels. The Outrage does just that. As soon as we meet these three completely different characters waiting for a train at a desolate hut just outside Silver Gulch, a small town on the southwestern border of the United States. The time was probably just after the Civil War, and from the outset it's also important to say that this is a remake of the classic Kurosawa's movie Rashomon, and that was certainly for the cinema purist. I haven't seen that Japanese film, but we'll try to check it out now after being hooked by Martin Ritt's version. Characters: a preacher played by a very young William Shatner, a prospector played by Howard Da Silva, and the aging con artist played by the legendary Edward G. Robinson, start to talk about a trial that's taking place in a nearby town. Robinson, being a fascinated listener whose insight into the psychology of why people say what they say, is summed up with this comment early on when he says, "You tell people what they want to hear." He tells it scornfully after a session of truth-seeking. In fact, Robinson immediately captures the tone of the movie, his cunning, his jokish manner, and his whole persona make you, the viewer, know that this is going to be an amusing ride, dissecting the ingredients of the evidence submitted at the trial of Juan Carrasco, played by Newman. And we hear earlier about this makeshift court that's set out on a dusty road inside the town, with the accused, handcuffed to a tree stump. The charge: rape and murder. The prospector had found the body of Harvey, referred as the husband, and he then, with some input from the preacher, also present at the hearing, recalls the evidence of what took place from Carrasco, the wife, and an Indian who by chance came upon the dying man. As the tale's told to the con artist, he provides questions, theories, and observations on the psychology of how human beings tend to impart their version of events to maximise their value in terms of attention and minimise their complicity in what actually happened. The prospector tells of finding the body and alerting the law, who captured Carrasco sleeping under a tree. Carrasco then shares his version. Newman, just a way of offering 100% to his characters, and here he fits the part perfectly. His Mexican accent is reliable. He looks like a rascal, an outlaw, complete with thick moustache, shortish mattish hair, jangling spurs, and the sombrero, of course, and his words echo that image, emphasising his macho ego that only kills to survive. And it's easily roused where beauty is on display and available. Testimony then moves on to the couple in the horse-drawn carriage. Carrasco sees an opportunity to make some cash when he sees a hand-cut Aztec dagger for sale. But after getting the husband alone and tying him up, he relieves him of his cash in his wallet and then is roused by a photo of the wife and switches his attention to her. After a skirmish, he disarms her and the animalism takes over, and the feeling is reciprocated by the wife in full view of the husband. The wife, then aware of her dishonour in full view, suggests a duel for her between the two amorous combatants. As he talks, we view the action, and the director emphasises close-ups of the protagonist. The con artist is in uproar at this account, knowing Carrasco's reputation. Magical moments in this story retold. Carrasco's recollection, however, emphasises the machoism. Here Ritt takes an opportunity to add action to the melodrama, and it's a touch amusing, probably unlike Corosaro's original. Carrasco concludes that the fight ended in his favour, and in effect using self-defence as his justification to enhance his own reputation as a tough guy. As for the wife, her view was that she had fled. Wife's account, she delivers a version of one anaesthetised by the events, wishing to be seen by all as a righteous, meek, loving soul. She contends that she was chosen by her husband, a man from an influential family, and she from less affluent beginnings, and that she submitted to Carrasco's lustful assault in fear and viewed him as an animal. Her concern was with her husband, and she released him and begged his forgiveness as to what he may have perceived on viewing her with the bandit. The scene with Harvey and Bloom at this stage is captured by Ritt again in close-up at the eyes, the sense of betrayal, the false innocence. Also, she describes a sense of liberation by the experiences, hardly a rape as she can cast off the shackles of slavery. Strong stuff indeed. His deadly silence, Harvey's that is, provokes a retaliatory response that I'm sure you can guess. The Indian then, a medicine man, probably steeped in ritual and superstition. He then recalls what he heard the husband tell, and at this point I reminded myself of our own experiences of court crime dramas more recently, when a curious array of characters achieved their 5 minutes of fame, to quote Andy Warhol. And this cynicism took over for me when the prospector recalled the Indian's input. He paints a picture of a wife's desire to be Carrasco's woman, to be free of religious morality, and her plea to kill the husband. But Carrasco refuses, and he releases the husband and receives the wrath of the wife for rejecting her offer. The husband, destroyed emotionally at the betrayal, takes the honourable way out. Harvey's character is less impactful, and this recall emphasises a man short on strength of character. So, having completed the third version, we are then experienced to a further debate, and Robinson exposes the proprietor's uncertainty of the Indian's lies as an indicator of a further chapter in the tale, and the preacher lands a few verbal punches himself to support the notion that all three lied, which leads to the prospector unearthing his own version, which clarifies that he witnessed it all before alerting the law. Bear in mind that he didn't deliver his version only after he'd found the dead man. It's painted of Carrasco's deep desire to start a new chapter with Bloom, to throw off the old shackles of deviance, to provide for the woman with honest brokerage, not defiant acts. Newman's brilliant in this phase as he shows off his sincerity that stinks of suspicion, but maybe a hint of weariness of being as he is, a loner, a taker, a beast, and now a salesman. It exposes his lack of social skills with women and how the wife is holding all the cards. For any men who have experienced this plea to the girl to reciprocate that feeling, this scene will act as a harrowing reminder. The pair enact a scene of pretense, riddled with false desire. Rick then explores play through hide and seek, a metaphor for the chases and the chaser, much like attempts at courtship beginnings. And then she unties her husband, passes him the gun. It's hilarious as the two men discuss the value of fighting for a woman full of deviance and deceit. The husband illuminates us of previous indiscretions of this charlatan as they both seek to reclaim their egos that have been tarnished. The woman responds in kind, denigrating both men's misogynist views and her husband's cowardice in the Civil War, and then she has a dig at Carrasco's so-called amorous performance. It's all juicy stuff, very much seen in divorce proceedings at this time, all over the developed world. The wife, having successfully manipulated both men into their respective corners, then awaits the duel with a sign of relish. For me, I was reminded of the duel in Love and Death, the Woody Allen masterpiece. As the shenanigans began, it's a comedic spectacle that leads to an all-action romp with both parties trying to outwit each other, but it ends in a farcical accident. And so, here we have the last call on the three at the station, as the con man philosophises about human psychology. Robinson hints at the aloofness to religious figures when he tells the preacher, "You are running away," and derides the notion of searching for miracles. Then they are disturbed by a crying infant, a stark reminder of our human failings, which get added to what we have already heard. And the notion of taking responsibility is also tested as to who will take on board this precious child. And one last fact of relevance is pointed out by the con man, suggesting a mercenary element in the prospector's account. So, in summary, this movie covers a lot of ground in dissecting human behaviour, and it leaves you to judge for yourself what really happened. And this is the movie's message. It looks at prejudice, one's own values, one's own upbringing, social status, selfishness, egotism, belief systems. They're all in play as the viewer, dissect the information, just as a jury may do in a modern court of law. Ironically, I sensed that the con artist was the only character which was relatively genuine in all this, and how he portrayed himself to the world. He was more upfront and easy to spot. Others had layers of deception that were extremely difficult to unravel. This is a true masterpiece. Don't miss it. It's called The Outrage, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. You will also enjoy it. That's my lot.